So welcome to Jesse and Melva Live. It is Jesse and Melva. Jesse's going to join us in just a couple of minutes, but I will go ahead and get us started. This time, we want to concentrate on what our livecast and podcast and our weekly column and the daily Beatitudes are all about. There really is a purpose and they're all tied in together. And we're going to focus on the big picture today within the context of telling you a story that relates to a composite of the couple, the kind of couple who comes to see us and who has come to see us over the past, now we're into the fourth decade, but anyway, that come to see us and the kind of situation that presents when they come in to see us, whether it's a workshop or counseling, or if we're doing a class someplace. So we're talking about how to be more successful in love, marriage, and life. Because we already know that people have a certain level of success already in those areas. And when we talk about the word success, many times when people hear the word success, they're thinking about monetary success. And many people have monetary success. I mean, they have the material kinds of things that they want, the home, the cars, you know, the community and what have you. And while that is one aspect of success, what we're talking about is another area of success, because people can be successful in many areas. You can be successful with your health. You can be successful in family relationships. We focus on success in love and marriage. So we're usually talking about the couple. Hi, Jesse.
Hello.
And so we want to focus on that aspect of success. And what we're going to do this time, we're going to give you an example of the kind of couple that comes to see us. And many of the listeners are people we have seen before, as well as people who may not know us and may be interested in discovering the tools that we have to share. I'll make more room for you.
Thank you.
So we can both be in here together.
All right.
Like a couple.
Yeah. More successful.
Like a in love and marriage. So the couple that we're going to share with you about this time, they're a couple that we talk about often, or the kind of couple. And we made up a name because they're a composite. Like all the stories of the couples in our book, except for us, we don't use their real names, but their stories are important. James and Mary's story is important. So we're going to share their story and where they get stuck, because these two individuals, spouses, aren't successful in other areas in their life. We're going to share with you the tools that we gave them for their success in this area, tools for growth and transformation. We're going to talk about personal inventory. We'll give you more information about that a little later. And we're going to offer a complimentary consultation. So let's get started. So Jesse, I want to tell a story about James and Marian.
Okay.
Is that okay?
All right.
Okay. So they've been married for over 25 years. And from the outside in, everything looks perfect. They have the perfect jobs and careers. He's a CEO of a big company, a very successful one. And relationships at work are awesome. She is the director of a big agency. And so she has a lot of teamwork going on with her staff and her partners. She's very successful. They have 2 children. One, the oldest is a daughter. She is married and she has 2 small children. And she's in a, by all descriptions, she's in a successful marriage, happy. And Marian and James really enjoy their grandchildren. Their younger son is a senior in college. And so Marian and James have been really successful in instilling values in their children, children who have become successful. Now, we don't know much about their love life. We just know that the oldest daughter is married and that the youngest son, that he has a girlfriend and she's around for the family holidays and what have you. So here's the thing with James and Marian. Yes, they are so successful in their careers. Now at home, I mean, they have many elements of success at home because they have a lot of good things that they enjoy, but they get stuck in a certain area where they're not successful. They're empty nesters. And so, they're thinking, the children are out of the home. And so we're going to have more time to enjoy each other. We're going to be hanging out more because they were hanging out when the children were there. We're going to hang out more. We're going to have more fun. And that didn't turn out to be the case. Now, they did schedule fun because many times I will hear counselors and therapists and what have you recommend, and coaches recommend to couples to make sure that they have a date night. Well, James and Marian have a date night at least once a week, and they're committed to their date night. Here's the thing, and here's where they're not successful, and that is their date night turns into argue night.
That is no fun.
That is no fun.
Nope.
And it's no fun for them. And they can't seem to get past it. And they argue about little things. Like my mother used to say, don't turn a molehill into a mountain. Well, they would turn a molehill into a mountain because what they didn't know was the little things that they were arguing about was really the tip of the iceberg of something that was unresolved in their 25 plus years of marriage, an underlying kind of thing that is related to the 3 principles that we talked about previously. And we're going to add a couple more this time. So when they were arguing, let's look at those 3 components. One is safety, one is understanding, one is compassion. Now, when people are arguing, there is no way that they are a source of safety for the other person. And the reason that they're not a source of safety, because their brains are wired for defense. And there's a part of the brain that's scanning the other person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, looking for a threat to the bond. So there was a threat to Marian and James's bond way back when that they never attended to. They just kind of swept it under the carpet. But it would come out. Now, sometimes it would come out when the children were at home, but they could push it under the carpet and just kind of put it aside because they were dealing with the children. The children are not home anymore. And so it's right there. It's like the elephant in the middle of the room. So at work, they don't have that kind of conflict. And the reason why is because at work, there is a different purpose for the relationship. At work, the purpose for the relationship is to achieve a certain goal so that there is monetary success for everybody concerned. The purpose for a relationship is different. A love and marriage relationship, it's different. It's about securing the bond so that there is more intimacy, conversational intimacy, sexual intimacy, intellectual intimacy, be able to talk about politics and that kind of thing, even if you disagree, but it's like engaging and kind of fun. Physical, non-sexual intimacy, like touch. And who was it that wrote the book about the 5 love languages? Gary Chapman, I think it is. All these different levels of intimacy. And so they were missing in some of those areas. And where the bond is weak, then that's a threat, because each person has their defensive hat on, trying to defend and trying to get that bond back, but not knowing how. So that was their problem. So what is it that they have an opportunity to do some discovery? And the discovery has to do with how they're showing up, because how they're showing up on date night, that turns into argument night or argue night, has a lot to do and a reflection of two important things for success in love and marriage, and actually in life too: mindset and skill set. Now, I remember growing up, speaking of mindset, my mother taught us, actually, our parents taught us in different ways about having a positive mental attitude. So on the coffee table at home, so my mother had the Bible, and she had Robert Schuller's book, what's it called? The Power of Positive Thinking, I think it was. And then she also had the Daily Word. So, we had all of this wonderful influence and impact and input on developing a positive attitude. Now, sometimes that positive attitude, I remember my sister told me that sometimes, no, one of my brothers told me that I live in fairy tale land or fantasy land or something like that, because of the way that I look at things sometimes. So it's one thing to have a positive mental attitude, but you got to follow it up with action steps that match the attitude. So I knew how to think in a positive way. But when I was in a situation where there was a threat to the relationship even in our marriage, when there were times when things were not going very well, I mean, that was a threat. And when we argued, that was a threat, to our bond and to the foundation of our marriage. Thank God we figured out what it was, because it's one thing to be, you can see it in other people and you can show them how to do it, but you got to know how to do it yourself. And so James and Marian knew how to do this at work, but they didn't know how to do it at home with each other. So they had to develop a mindset first. And the mindset has something to do about, it's not the skill set first, it's the mindset first. And the mindset first is, how do I want to be in this relationship? Do I want to be a source of safety? Do I want to be a source of understanding? Do I want to be a source of compassion? And there's other characteristics too of how to be more successful in a love and marriage relationship, right? So, and those characteristics are so important to us that we came up with, it's going to be 365. We call them Beatitudes. We may start calling them something else, but how to be more successful in love, marriage, and life. Because the skills that people use at work, and also sometimes in friendships, those skills don't always translate into intimate relationships, because things get so sensitive. And the other thing is, the sensitivity has to do with what gets triggered, not in the here and now, but the whole history gets triggered. And if you don't know what that is, you don't know what to do about it. So the skill set doesn't work if the mindset is not in alignment.
And you don't have the same emotional investment in the work relationships that you do in your marriage. And so the greater the emotional investment, the more challenging it is in order to get onto the other side of it. And it requires, you got to keep working at it. You just can't say, well, that's the way they are. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way I am.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a community of people, since the beginning, we're in a community of people who are positive thinkers, do a lot of self-help kind of thing, a lot of self-improvement kind of thing. So we have a lot of information. It's the implementation that's not always easy. I mean, we can talk a good game in terms of, you could know the principles in and out, but there's something that happens when you begin to apply. So we're not on that step yet. We're on the mindset step for Marian and James. So, so since Marian and James, they're the kind of couple who comes to us for counseling and for workshops, then they're open to discovering what it is that they don't know about themselves when they get triggered in terms of how they show up. From the example that we just shared about the argument, and they can argue about anything, they have no idea about how they show up. They're very clear about how the other person shows up. They can give you, not rhyme and reason, but they can give you a description in detail of how the other person was wrong, with the person, how the other person is off track, how the other person needs to improve. See, all of that is projection. I didn't like that when I first learned that years ago. I was projecting. I didn't like it, but anyway, it's the truth. So it was important for them to discover some very specific things. And we call them measurements of success. And these measurements of success come from people that we have a lot of respect for. Mm-hmm. So what is the first measurement of success, Jesse?
The first measurement of success is...
Look at the screen.
And Doctors John and Julie Gottman having the capacity to repair conflict fast.
So that was something that John, so let's look at this on a scale of 1 to 10, meaning 1, not there at all, and 10, absolutely there. So since James and Marian have been dealing with this for over 25 years, but now it's in their face. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of repairing quickly, what would you say there? On a scale of 1 to 10? Because nothing got repaired.
No, it didn't. So it'd be -1.
-1. Okay. Okay, so that's the first measurement of success in love and marriage. The second one, and you have to have a mindset that says that I am open and committed to contributing to repairing conflict fast. And I am not going to make it the other person's responsibility to do it. I can invite it. I have power over what I can do. Okay, so that's number 1. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is, and this is according to our mentors, Drs.Harville and Harville, Hendricks, and Dr. Helen, Lakelly Hunt. They're the founders of Imago Relationship Therapy. It's where we got our certification to do Imago therapy and do the workshops. And what else do? We supervise other therapists in terms of the work. Anyway, so they're our mentors. And so they say the second measurement of success, or we call it the second measurement of success, they call it zero negativity. And they're speaking of that measurement of success from their own personal experience. And Harville talked about it. One of the places that he talked about it, not only with us, the community of Imago therapists, he also talked about it on Oprah. Oprah calls him her favorite relationship therapist. But anyway, so no negativity and zero negativity. And so when I think about zero negativity, I also think about what John Gottman and Julie Gottman said about then the goal becomes having 5 positive interactions for every negative one. So old positive thinker over here when I heard about that one, it's like, okay, that's going to be a stretch for me to figure out how to do that. Except then I remembered, oh, I got all these tools. I know how to do that. Oh, we know how to do that.
We know how to do
We
it.
know how to do it.
And we've been working at it for a long time.
Yeah, most of the time we do it.
Right.
most
Most of the time.
of the time.
Every now and then we can pick up each other's buttons, and then we got to go back to remember now. Okay.
Right.
Now,
Oh, we have one. Oh, we have one of those. Oh no, we got to do what?
yeah, right. That's true.
Okay, so that's number two measurement of success. Number three, the third measurement of success, according to, and we talked about these next three on our previous Jesse and Melva Lives that turned into our podcast. And that is being a source of safety. Oh, wait. So in terms of the 5 positive interactions for every negative one and 0 negativity. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think James and Marian are?
I think they probably vary between, say, 8.
8?
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, okay.
To a 2.
In terms of 5 positive interactions?
Oh. In terms of 5. Well.
To every negative one?
Yeah, well. That depends on whether or not they're conscious of it.
Oh, when people go into arguing and that kind of thing are unconscious.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're in the they don't know what they don't know that they don't know zone.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I would say that they're closer to a 1. As a matter of fact, they probably, in that situation, they probably have 5 negative interactions for every positive one.
Mm-hmm. That's probably good, pretty close.
Even though they have a lot more positive things going on, but those things are on the back burner. But in terms of having positive interactions about that, the what they're not dealing with, I'd say that the ratio is in the reverse.
Right.
That's what I think.
All right.
Okay, let's go to measure number 3, and we've talked about that before, being a source of safety. So it's hard to be a source of safety when you're finger pointing, when you're criticizing, when you're putting the other person down, when you're making the other person wrong. There is no way that is possible to be a source of safety. Being a source of safety is putting yourself in a context where you are thinking about your positive intention for, number 1, why you're in the relationship in the first place, and number 2, your positive intention for contributing to a positive outcome. Because here's what we learned from George Land back in 80. When did he come to Arnold's workshop? The late 80s, I think it was.
Yeah.
So George Land, he's a
phenomenal man.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And so is his wife.
Yes. And his theory, he's a consultant for international corporations. And so one thing that he taught us at one of the seminars that we were assisting Arnold Patton with years ago was that the foundation for what he does in organizations is that he takes them from chaos to structure. Now, structure is safety. Structure is not the most comfortable place to be because you can't be reactive.
Right.
So he takes them to structure where they have a safe haven to do something more effective and practice it over and over and over again until it becomes normal, until it becomes more of the incorporation, more of a team experience. In love and marriage, we think of going from conflict to a structure of safety where you go inside, make yourself safe. You go into reflection, like we were doing reflective imageries. We're not going to do them this time because we have something else we want to invite you to do, so that you can find out what's going on within you and then make a decision about how you're going to show up to make a difference for a positive income.
Outcome.
I must be thinking about money. Outcome. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, source of safety. So the fourth measurement of success in love and marriage that we like, and we've talked about this before, being a source of understanding. And that means that not only understanding what's going on within you, but giving your partner the grace to cross the bridge into their world, to understand what they are experiencing, because most of the time it is different from what you're experiencing. What they want in the moment is possibly very different from what you want at the moment. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably say that James and Marian are a 0.
That much?
Right.
Okay.
And then the last one we've talked about before is compassion, because being over into another, understanding your world and your experience, that's only half of it. In relationship, to be successful in relationship, is also to have compassion for the other person's experience. Then that's when you go to the, and only then, that's when you go to the problem solving, you know. And sometimes just going through those steps alone will dissolve the situation. But since this has been going on with James and Marian for a long time, then they need some steps to do some problem solving. And then the areas where it's difficult to solve it, then it's important to manage. And the most important part of managing is managing themselves. So I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, they're probably at a 0.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now that doesn't take away from the ways that they're successful in other areas, but in terms of emotional intimacy and closeness, they have some work to do. And you know what? What I love about James and Marian, because they're like couples who come to see us and come to our workshop, they want to know. They want to know. And they're not so much interested in hearing what to do and not implementing it. They want to implement it. And that's very exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it almost feels like, we're in a community of like-minded people. It's like we all want to show up and be our best in as many situations as we can. I mean, we all want that. It's not always easy to do.
Yeah, because sometimes people come to us and they say, I want them to change. You show them what to do. And then I'll think about whether I want to change.
Yeah.
And so with that kind of an attitude and approach toward relationship, very little is going to happen that's going to cause them to be successful.
Right. So let's say this real quick. And that is that, okay, so what did James and Marian do? Because they did come in. What did they do? They did their own personal inventory. And that's what we're inviting you to do. We're inviting you to do what they did. They took their own personal inventory to see on a scale of 1 to 10 where they were as problem solvers, where they were as of being less critical, where they were, this is on a scale of 1 to 10, on being a source of safety, being a source of understanding, and being a source of inventory, of compassion. We invite you to take your own inventory in those 5 areas. And if you would like support in taking that inventory, we invite you to sign up for a complimentary consultation, because part of what we're doing with our Jesse and Melva Live podcast, Beatitudes and Column, is that mindset is the first step. Skill set is the second step, and we're in the process of developing programs to support couples to take that step. We've done live workshops in the past. We're going to be doing online workshops. They'll be coming up soon, and we'll be sharing more about that. So,
yes,
what did we cover today? We covered the mindset and measurement for success in love and marriage.
We told you about James and Marian and gave you an example of the process they've been going through.
Yeah, and we're inviting, just like we invited them to take their personal inventory, and they did take it. We're inviting you to do the same. And we're also inviting you to sign up for a complimentary consultation. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We're looking forward to next time. We're going to take some more elements of this. Marian and James, that's our composite. There's 365 characteristics that will be available by the end of the year. Right now, we're up to 200 and something. But we're giving you food for thought in terms of how to show up as your best self in love, marriage, and life. Most people are doing pretty well at work. It's in the love and marriage that we want to take couples to the next level. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Until next time, take care.